Hello YouTube friends, in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to derive the product rule using an alternative technique. So what we have over here is y is a function of x, and this blue curve is this function. So if this part over here, this vertical is x, then this horizontal over here is going to be function of x. If this vertical over here is x plus change in x, then this horizontal over here is going to be function of x plus change in x. And what we can do is with these 2 points on this curve is create this right angled triangle. And if we see the coordinates over here, we realize that this distance over here is change in x. And this distance over here is change in the function of x. Therefore, this height, function of x plus change in x, must be the function of x plus the change in the function of x. Okay, and we are going to be using what we've discovered here to formulate the product rule, which is used for differentiation in A-level mathematics. So take it, the function of x plus the change in the function of x is the function of x plus change in x, okay? Likewise, if we had a function gx and we had a function hx, gx plus change in gx would be gx plus change in x, okay? And this over here would also be true. Now we know that the derivative of y, which is a function of x, would be the limit as change in x approaches 0 of change in y over change in x. But since y is actually the function of x, right, we can write over here for this derivative, the derivative of the function of x is the limit as change in x approaches 0 of the change in the function of x over change in x. Okay, this would be the same as change in y over change in x, this part over here to the right. Now, if this is true for the function of x over here, then it's also going to be true for the functions of x that are over here, g and h, okay? So the derivative of this function over here is going to be the limit as change in x approaches 0 of the change in the function of x over change in x. And likewise for this over here, okay? And with these definitions, it's fairly simple to come up with the product rule used in A-level mathematics. Now let's get to the proof for the product rule. Over here we have function of x, which is gx times hx. And this means that the function of x plus change in x is going to be gx plus change in x times hx plus change in x. Okay, and if this is true over here, then we can write this underneath, okay? So we've got the function of x plus change in x minus the function of x over change in x is equal to gx plus change in x plus times h, x plus change in x minus gx times hx over change in x. So if this is true up here, and according to our definitions at the top, then this over here must also be true. So over here we've got the definition of the derivative of the function of x, okay, which is this limit as change in x approaches 0 of fx plus change in x minus fx over change in x. Now if this is true over here, and according to our definitions at the top, then this over here must also be true, okay? So we have this as the derivative of the function of x, but we are going to replace gx plus change in x and hx plus change in x. We are going to replace these values over here with these values up here, okay? Just over here. Now, if we replace these two values over here, like I said, what we get is this over here. And if we expand, we eventually get this right over here, okay? You can watch this video again if you want to know exactly how to do it, but for the sake of making this short, I'm going to go through it quite quickly. Anyway, so if we continue manipulating the equation, what we end up with is the limit as change in x approaches 0 of gx times change in hx over change in x plus hx times change in gx over change in x plus change in gx over change in x times change in hx. However, as change in x approaches 0, change in hx over change in x approaches the derivative of this function, hx, and also change in gx over change in x approaches the derivative of this function of x here. Okay? Since change in x is approaching 0, change in hx is also going to be approaching 0. Therefore, change in gx over change in x times change in hx is also going to be approaching 0 as well. So this over here, this entire expression over here becomes this expression right over here. So we know that when we have the function of x, which is gx times hx, the derivative is going to be gx times the derivative of hx plus hx times the derivative of gx. Okay? And this over here is called the product rule. If you like what you see and you want the workings, visit mathematics.proofs on Instagram. My latest post over here contains the workings for this product rule. If you want more mathematics proofs, make sure you are subscribed to my channel, and I'll see you in my next video.